Welcome to Elevate Your Event, your favorite podcast for transforming fundraising events. Join us weekly for expert tips and creative ideas to make your next event a standout success.
Events can raise money, but they can also stall your donor growth if they're doing all the heavy lifting. On this episode of Elevate Your Event, we're joined by Jeff Schreifels, principal and owner of Veritas Group, a fundraising consultancy that helps nonprofits build donor pipelines that actually last. We're talking about where events fit, where they go wrong, and how to turn one-night generosity into long-term donor relationships. Let's dive in.
All right, well, welcome back to the Elevate Your Event podcast, where we talk about all the various ways you can make your next fundraising event better and maybe figure out how to connect it to your entire, I would call it like donor management, donor development plan. So we've got a special guest today. I am excited to introduce Jeff Schreifels. I'm not going to get his first name wrong, just because
No, you got it. You got it.
We our mothers agreed on something in the past at some point, so we're both named Jeff. But Jeff is the principal and owner of the Veritas Group. And Jeff, go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell the audience a little bit about your background. We know you hail from the currently cold Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So I have to apologize. I'm a Redskins/Commanders fan from growing up in D.C.
Well, you beat us yesterday, unfortunately. We missed the number 2 seed because of you. But, we had our third string in for the whole time. But.
I don't blame you. I would too.
Yeah, like you said, I'm the principal and owner of Veritas Group. And Veritas has been around for 16 years. I've been in fundraising for 38 years.
Wow.
So I started out right out of college working for a small nonprofit based in Philadelphia. And for the next 8 years of my, starting career, I worked for 2 different nonprofits as a development director. And then I went to Seattle and worked for a large agency, a direct response agency, for 12 years before my business partner and I started Veritas. So I've worked in all aspects of fundraising, from, writing acquisition letters to holding events to sitting across the table and asking for large gifts from major donors. And so I've been very fortunate in being able to have all that experience in the whole realm of fundraising.
Right. Well, I think that helps you too, right? Because you now know how the pieces connect together.
That's right. Yeah.
And
I like to call it the donor pipeline, from acquisition all the way to they make their final, legacy gift. I've been able to be involved in all of that area.
I think that's a smart way to look at it. I mean, obviously, if you're in commercial sales, you understand what a pipeline is. I don't think a lot of nonprofits out there maybe necessarily embrace it to that level, but it makes a lot of sense. You have to have a lot of patience, right? I mean, obviously, I don't think, maybe your sales turnaround cycle is 30 to 60 days for some things, but for these guys, it can be years, right? I would imagine.
For major gifts, it could be, anywhere from 12 to 36 months.
Yeah.
It really depends where your relationship is with that donor at the time.
Well, and that's good to know. I mean, in the sense of, about 36 months sounds a lot shorter than I would have thought for certain types of major gifts. But I think that's great to know that, like, hey, it's achievable, right? I mean, it's, we're not talking about 36 years. So,
36 months. It doesn't mean that the donor's not giving, but they're not giving that transformational gift, perhaps, until they really felt like they built trust with your organization, that you've brought them an offer that's inspiring, that matches their passions and interests. That takes time.
Well, and so let's spend a little bit of time then, since you mentioned the word pipeline. Just give us a brief high-level overview of, like, what's a pipeline for you? Like, when you think about, like, hey, for a nonprofit, what are the stages we're talking about here?
Yeah. So what I would look at as a pipeline is, from the very beginning, is what are you doing to bring new donors into the organization? In a sense, you're casting the net out in a number of different ways, either through direct response, through events, other, people inviting their friends, so whatever you're doing to get that first gift.
Yep.
And then from there, you're cultivating those donors. Some are going to say, nah, I don't really, I'm not really passionate about that mission after I find out more about it. But you're trying to capture as many of those people.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually some of those donors are giving larger gifts. And that's where I would say that's where mid-level comes in. So that's an area where you might be just starting a new type of relationship with that donor where it's all been direct response previous.
Yep.
Now you're introducing them to a mid-level rep. So that rep might have 600 donors in their portfolio, and they're just starting to reach out and understand who that donor is. And for the donor, it's probably the first time someone's from that organization has reached out to them.
Okay.
So the relationship is changing. And then major gifts is when they gravitate up to those bigger gifts, typically 10,000 and above, and cumulative and above. And then over time, you're cultivating them within that as they're giving major gifts, higher major gifts, and then eventually, they're going to make an estate gift, hopefully, or a planned gift over that time. So that is the pipeline, and you have to really look at every part of that pipeline. How am I investing in each area?
Right. And what are the expected outcomes and kind of the things that measure success, right?
The ROIs on each of those areas, acquisition, cultivation, mid-level, major gifts, they should all have an ROI attached. You should be well aware of what you're expecting from that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say, just to kind of tie this into events, I mean, I think events isn't necessarily, it doesn't fit into one stage.
No.
Right?
It's a part of all of it.
It's a part of all of it. And so, for a lot of our clients when they come in, and we can kind of assess their maturity level with this pipeline that you're describing, and we don't really consult at the level that you do, but we've been around enough nonprofits that we know kind of how the events play a factor into that. And it does kind of guide what we tell our clients. And so long way for me to say a lot of the things you do at events or don't do at events can significantly impact a variety of these stages.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, the big thing is we'll be chatting with people and they'll say, well, auctions are kind of difficult and they're a pain. So we're just going to do an ask. And so I'll say, okay, you could do an ask, but who's coming to this event? Are you anticipating a whole bunch of people being introduced for the first time ever? Or are they guests of somebody who bought a table of, with 10 seats at it? Well, yeah, we're selling, different sponsorship levels, and we've got tables of 8 and tables of 4 and couples tickets and whatnot. And they'll say, okay, well, is everybody prepared to donate even at the $100 level? Or do you have other things that you can engage people with that are going to capture their name, their email address, their credit card, all the other kind of stuff that you're going to want down the road? And we're kind of steering them, not because we sell auction software, we do, but we're kind of steering them towards that stage one is max engagement. I want to know, I want everybody's email coming in the door.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So for that case, yes, acquisition, that's where those auctions and, are great because it's a fun way to capture their name. Now, hopefully during the event, you're also introducing the mission so that they at least know what you're about.
Yes. Well, and, and hopefully, here's a good question for you, because I always wondered this, okay, so because I've gone to some certain charity events, and being in the space, it's kind of cheating. I'll read up on it. I'm not going to every charity event unless I really know what the charity does. I would imagine sometimes it's you're calling up your buddies and you're like, I bought a table at this charity event. Do you and your wife want to attend with us? It's going to be a lot of fun. Food's usually good. There's some entertainment, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And so and then those people don't, right? So to your point, that's my opportunity to introduce the mission. Otherwise, what they're going to walk out of there with is maybe a couple of auction items they won and who knows, a good meal, right?
Yeah. And I think the majority of the people that are going to that, who are invited, doing the table thing, as you suggested, is, they're not going to become long-term donors necessarily. A few of them will. but we should do the best job we can to capture.
Yep.
So if you have a table of 10, maybe 2 of them will be captured by the mission, but you're trying to get all 10 of them. Well, even though 2 are going to say, yes, I want more information about that. But those other 10 can, through their auction items or whatever you're doing at the event, could add revenue to subsidize the event.
Yep. 100%. And it goes back to kind of data again. So, we do have clients that we're coaching them through kind of maybe their first event or maybe their first event using technology. And we're telling them, because they'll say, we really want check-in to really be streamlined and smooth and easy. So we're just going to make up email addresses and just pre-register everybody so we don't have to capture all that data at the door. And I just don't really feel comfortable asking my guests for personal information like that. And I'm like, well, do they know what they're coming to? You know?
Yeah. No, you want all that information.
You got to get it. Yeah.
Yes, you have to get it.
So that's kind of stage one. And then events, let me ask you this next question then, because this kind of goes into a board meeting I was in more recently, which is, okay, I've got some maybe not new visitors to the organization. I've got people that have connected with the event. They've donated in the past. They've come to the event maybe the last 3 or 4 years. How do I get those people from a $250 paddle raise to $1,000 to a $2,500 one? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. You're the expert at how to get them to give more at that event. But again, I think it comes from what you do pre-event with those people that are coming in, and kind of helping set the expectation for that person that's coming in that said, let's say you have a table captain who's got 10 people and he knows what they gave last year, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And he can go to them and say, hey, last year it was great. I know that you spent $500 on this auction item. You got a great item. I really would love it if our table could do 20% more. So if you could do $750 or $1,000 this year, that'd be awesome. There's things like that if you have the relationship.
Well, I love that advice. And I think maybe also, maybe you have to vet out who you're bringing, right? So I'll just pick on myself, right? So I bought a table of 6. Sounds like an odd number, but they had rounds. We did a fundraiser at a steakhouse. I think this was the 3rd year we have done it. And the event's kind of stuck, Jeff. I mean, it's like, okay, so they can fit about 125 people in the room.
Yeah.
It's a great event. It is very intimate. I love how it's not super spread out and everybody's kind of connected in the room.
Yeah.
But it's stuck in the sense that, how do I get a paddle raise from 40 to 50K to 100? And we were chatting about this, and of course, it's all board members, right? They're like, well, we just need richer people in the room. I was like, we need more generous people in the room, that's for sure. But I don't know if they have to be rich. But I mean, what came up is okay, everybody should, and I actually said this because I was kind of scrutinizing my table, everybody should look at who they brought and ask yourself the question, are these the type of people that are going to go from a $250 paddle raise to $500 to $750? Question number one. Or do I need to invite other people? But the next thing you said was also interesting. If I do feel they're that way, I need to preset expectations with the people coming, that this is what I'm expecting them to do if they're going to be our guests, right?
Absolutely.
I sound pushy?
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be for me and my friends.
I've been doing this for a long time. So what I would do pre-event is make sure all the table captains are on board. You've had a pre-meeting with them. You've already given them the information about the people that they've invited, if they've invited them back. So they know what they've given. And then you're setting, this is what you're going to tell the people before they come to the event. There might be things in the silent auction that that they're going to like, and you already tell them about all that stuff before they come into it.
I love it.
That's the kind of thing about knowing your people And for that event, then you can raise it from 50 to 100.
I love that idea.
That's what I would do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's so funny. There's another event we do, and this one's fairly high profile, and they actually have it. I'm not going to say they have it easy. I think all of these things are hard. But this event is so desirable to be a part of. We actually have what we call a table revenue report in Handbid, and they run that report, and they uninvite, or I don't call it, what do they call it in professional soccer, James, like relegation or something?
Yeah.
They kick the bottom like 4 or 5 tables out.
Okay.
Isn't that hilarious? It's like, well, no, because if you're in the bottom 4 or 5, whatever, the bottom 10%, we just strongly feel like we got to give somebody else another chance who's been dying to buy a table from us and see if they can beat you. And you can get back in, but you run the risk of not, which,
yeah,
interesting, huh?
It's kind of like game theory, right? Or gaming. Yeah. So we love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So what do you say on stage? So let's go mid-level gifts. So you said a high-end gift a major gift was $10,000 or much.
Typically, for organizations, they would call a major gift a 10,000 cumin above per year.
Okay.
Mid-levels up between 1,000 and 9,999.
Okay.
Now, if you're a university, obviously it's like 50,000 or 100,000 is your major gift levels.
Mm-hmm.
It really depends on the size of the organization.
There's room inside that range. So, because this is also something I think a lot of our clients struggle with is, hey, Jeff's going to give, every year he gives $1,000 in the paddle race. Right?
Yeah.
How do I get him to 1,500 or 2,000? Or is the argument like, we just got to find more different people, right? Because that guy's we've maxed him out.
That's
right?
a good question. So let's just say someone gave 1,500 or even 5,000, or even, let's say they gave 15,000 the first time they ever gave a gift at an event.
Mm-hmm.
I would not call them a mid or major donor. I would call them somebody who's interested,
mm-hmm.
but I wouldn't put them in a portfolio until what I would call us qualify that donor.
Mm-hmm.
So we at Veritas, we always have a process to determine whether a donor actually wants a relationship with you before you would put them in a portfolio and spend that money and the time and the energy to cultivate until they say to us, hey, I want that relationship. So for that donor that gave that $1,500 or the donor that gives $7,500, the follow-up is calling that person
mm-hmm.
and really finding out what's the motivation of that gift beyond the paddle raise. Were they inspired by the mission? Do they want more information about us? Can we talk to them further about it?
Yep. Okay.
So that's something we would do on the mid and major gift side, because we know that a lot of donors who go to events, they give, from the emotion of that night,
mm-hmm.
and they most of them are not what I would call a mission donor.
Okay.
And the job then, once they've done this, once they've gone to the event, is to try to convert them into a mission donor.
So describe mission donor for our audience.
A mission donor is someone who's there who really is bought into the cause of your nonprofit. Somebody that has a passion about it. And somebody who goes to an event and does a paddle raise may at the event become a mission donor because you did something that broke their heart.
Yep.
Or, someone says, wow, I didn't know this about this organization. This is amazing. My father had this disease and now I come here and they're working on a cure for this.
Yep.
I'm passionate about this. So that would be a mission donor, somebody who cares about it, wants to know more from the organization, wants to get regular updates, wants to know exactly how their gifts are making a difference and an impact.
Yeah. No, I think that's powerful. And I think what you're describing there says, I've got, and I always joke about events, like this is like, a marketing person's dream come true because I get to market to the audience and they're actually paying me to do it.
I know.
Assuming you're charging a fee to get in, which most people do. So I was like, okay, so I have to take advantage of that stage time. And so, like, for you guys, I'm sure you're working very closely with your clients to say, how do I best use that 15 or 20 minutes, right? I would assume it's something as short as that in most cases.
That's right. You want your best shot of explaining what you do and what the problem is and how their help is helping solve that problem. So yeah, I mean, that's the best use from our point of view of an event. And what we know from major gifts is we don't want, the problem with major gifts and events is when the organization uses the major gift team to actually run the event.
Oh, Lord.
That's the problem. And in many ways, I look at events as a marketing function, not really a fundraising function.
Yeah.
Because the fundraising side can come later. The marketing side is, hey, we're trying to acquire these people. We're trying to cultivate, lift their giving, inspire them.
Yeah.
But to look at this as a fundraising strategy can really hurt, because here's what I see oftentimes, that the events become such a big part of the overall fundraising strategy of that organization that those donors now become event donors, and event teams look at those donors as their own, not the full organization. And so I've seen where event planners, the event team will say, oh no, you can't talk to our donor, because if you go out and cultivate that donor and ask for a gift, then when it comes time for the event, they're not going to get their $50,000 at the event. And we're like, hold on. This is not your donor. You're a strategy. This is the organization's donor. We're trying to help the donor give to their heart's content.
Oh man, I've seen this. And it's like, I've been on a number of boards. This is actually from an organization I founded or helped found. So we're sitting there at a board meeting, and there had been so much success from basically these international walks that we had done across a couple of different countries, the U.S. being the dominant country, and a peer-to-peer platform that we had built ourselves. And when I say success, I mean, we're talking about an organization that was probably raising a couple $100,000 a year, and now we're raising 4 times that, over $1 million. And so we were very small, and now we were getting into that mid-size level, kind of crossed a barrier. All of that was great. But the connection from the staff and I'm talking event staff all the way up to the executive director was built around the people hosting these walks.
Yeah.
And how much money they were individually raising. So as a board member, I just asked the simple question, because we had a CRM. I said, who are our top 10 annual biggest donors?
Yeah.
Who are they? They couldn't name anybody in the top 10. And these top 10 donors were corporations, and they were connected to a completely different event that was a golf tournament that raised a couple $100,000. And the point I was making wasn't that we should stop doing walks. And it certainly wasn't that everybody should just go embrace a different event like the golf tournament. The point I was making was the point you were making, is that these are donors to the organization. These are not event donors.
Yes.
Right? And I think that's important for, anybody listening to this show to understand, that you've got to disconnect people from that, because to your point, pipeline-wise, if I have somebody who went to a walk run, donated $1,000, my goal is to get them to $2,500 to $5,000, and that might just be through cultivation, not through, please come to my next walk.
Exactly. And then the next goal is really to endear them to that organization over time.
Yeah.
Then the mission, and turn that $1,000 walk gift into a $100,000 major gift.
Yep.
And then eventually a plan gift and so forth. So,
and I would say charities can run into this I don't call it a trap. For us, it was a little bit of a trap, and we fixed it. But there were a number of people who were connected to these walks who thought the organization's name was the name of the walk. I mean, it'd almost be like, it's not the American Heart Association. You work for Heartball, right?
Yeah.
Or you work for Race for the Cure. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so you just can't, as much as we love events, I don't know. I would tell you, I was going to actually say that if I put my major donor people in charge of events, they would all quit on me. But I mean, you know, as important as and great as events can be, they cannot take over the identity of your organization, right?
Right. But too often that does happen.
Yeah.
Because events, you know, they get stuck, you know, they get a bunch of cash from it, right?
Yeah.
And so then they go, oh, let's do another one and another one. And now they're running 4 or 5 major events during the year. And now they've got to hire more staff to actually do that well.
Yep.
And then they're like, okay, now these donors, don't give them the major gifts because we need them to prop up the revenue, because our KPIs are all about how many people are attending and what's the revenue from that event. Yep. And if it goes down because a $100,000 donor to that event now is giving, you know, $100,000 to major gifts from a major gift officer, we're losing that revenue. And now my KPI is down. So you see how what happens over time. We start to lose, what are we doing here? We're trying to help a donor ultimately give to their heart's content. Yep. And we put up all these barriers along the way of that pipeline. And one of them is we've turned events into a department versus a strategy.
And it's so funny because I think there's a little bit of event planners' egos tied into that. It's not always metrics. Yeah. I remember it was so funny. So I think we ran our first Handbid auction in May of 2011, but we ran our first school auction in the following fall. So I would say sometime in early fall of 2012. And I remember back then we were just starting up. So I actually went to this PTO meeting here in Colorado. And first thing they said was, well, how do we make sure that the only people that can win an auction item are the ones that are physically there? Because, you know, this is mobile bidding now, right? You don't have to be, they're not bidding on bid sheets. And so our whole thing is like, oh my God, this is great. Your people don't all have to be there. They can bid from anywhere. You're going to raise more money. Like we're all talking about raising more money, raising engagement. I mean, I was super excited about that. I honestly hated going to my kids' school auctions. So for me as a dad, it's like, okay, I get to see the football game now or the basketball game. So I was super excited, but they weren't, because they measured success around how good the party was.
Yeah.
Right? And when people didn't come to your party, they felt like, well, that's a fail. And, you know, we run a big, Kentucky Derby event every year, and it is a fundraiser for us. And people are either going to come or they're not. But, you know, one of the things that I think our board had to learn and realize over time, Jeff, is you actually make more money if they don't come. Because they're going to give you $500 and I don't have to buy them dinner and I don't have to buy them drinks.
Right.
So, you know, I think some of that mentality starts to shift over time, but it goes back to what you're describing, which is, are our goals of the event aligned with the goals of the organization?
Right.
Yeah. We got to wrap up here soon. This has been such a great conversation. We could probably talk for hours, but I want to ask you about boards.
Okay.
Just in terms of their influence on events and also just more specifically their influence in terms of donors, where do they help and where do you tend to see them not help as it relates to kind of the mid and major gifts and stuff?
Where they don't help is not having patience or understanding that it takes time to build a mid and major gift program. So they'll say, you know what, we need a major gift program. Let's hire a major gift officer and we should start seeing the money flowing in. They don't understand how long it takes to actually build really authentic relationships where the donor has to gain trust from the organization in order to give those 6, 7, 8-figure gifts. That takes time. So having that understanding is number one, because usually boards don't have that patience. And then the pressure comes from down to the executive director, down to the development director, down to the major gift officers, where all the pressure is get the money. We believe that fundraising really isn't about the money. It's about building relationships. And if you do that well, money becomes a result of those good relationships.
I love that. That is so powerful to say that, right?
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Where they really help is especially around acquisition of new donors, being able to open up their contacts and say, I have these 5 people that I know that I think really would resonate with the mission. I want to invite them to something, whether it's a small event in their home or whatever, to hear what this is really about. So that's one way where the board can be really helpful in opening up new donors into the organization and or helping cultivate current major donors that they know.
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases, I've seen where that the solicitation actually comes from the board director under the guidance of the development team because they have the relationship. And so that's another way that boards have been really helpful for especially mid and major gifts to, one is to open it up to their sphere of influence, but then also to cultivate those donors that are already donors to the organization could give more.
It's awesome. I know it's funny because as a board, I sit on a couple boards still. It's like as a board member, I've been in the, kind of the event staff's shoes. And even nonprofit staff shoes a little bit more than the rest. And it's, you try to kind of encourage board members to behave. But to your point, they don't always understand how complicated the process is. But I've also instructed, nonprofit staffs that they've got to do a better job of educating board members what it takes to.
Absolutely. We always say, whenever you bring in a new board member, you need to have a development, in a sense, kit for them so that they understand what is their role in fundraising for this organization, not just the governance of the organization, but in fundraising, what are the expectations from them, and what do they currently what are they expected to do? A lot of times, board members don't have any idea, and the board and the organization has done no work in trying to help them understand how development and donors play a part in the health of this organization and their role in that.
And I would say all the way up to at events, like educating your board members on which major donors are there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That to me is it's a given. You have to. That's part of your pre-event strategy is all of your board members, who are the people attending, who are they connected to, and do those board members have a plan for every board member connected to those donors, what they're going to do, and then post-event, have a recap with those board members, what happened. Yeah.
I think it's awesome. Oh my God, this has been great. I will tell you, like I said, we could chat for hours because there's so much rich information here. And Jeff, I would say, I don't know, are your clients mostly East Coast? Do you have clients all over the country or what?
All over the world. We're worldwide.
Oh my God. Yeah. I would strongly recommend anybody who's trying to figure out how to unstick their event or just kind of drive I would say just a more mature donor development program to give you a call, because I could tell you guys would do an amazing job.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do people get a hold of you if they want to give you a call?
Yeah, all they have to do is go to veritasgroup.com. And specifically, since we're talking about events, we have a white paper. We've got over 25 different white papers we've done. But one particular is called Events and Major Gifts.
Okay.
And they can download that. And it's a 20-page white paper that goes through all the steps. What do you do pre, during, post event, and what the role of major gifts should be around that event.
I love it.
So yeah, do that. You can find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And we can connect there as well.
Yeah, I would encourage all of our listeners to give them a look over, and we can link it to that white paper as well from our podcast episode.
That'd be great.
But Jeff, this has been amazing.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, again, I really do appreciate all of your wisdom and insight, and thank you for what you do for the nonprofit community. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll wrap this up. This is it's been a great episode. So until next time, guys, happy fundraising.
If you enjoyed our show, please take a moment to leave us a review. You can find us on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Don't forget to subscribe for more great content. And if you're a fan of video, check us out on YouTube. Until next time, happy fundraising.